Good evening and welcome once again to our live stream from the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. I'm John Woodland, and if you've ever attended the final weekend of this festival before, you'll know that tonight, Friday, always feels a little different. For the past 7 evenings, we've had the privilege of hearing the festival's extraordinary international faculty in chamber music performances of remarkable breadth and imagination. But this evening, the spotlight shifts. Tonight belongs to the students. Over this past week, more than 200 young musicians have been immersed in rehearsals, coaching sessions, and masterclasses. They've worked alongside some of the world's finest musical artists, absorbed new ideas, tackled unfamiliar repertoire, and perhaps without realizing it, grown both as musicians and as people. And tonight we hear the first fruits of all that work. And so tonight, this year's Sicmf Festival Symphony Orchestra takes the stage, not simply as an orchestra assembled for a concert, but as a community forged over the past 7 days. And while tonight celebrates the students, it's also worth reflecting on the extraordinary artistry of the faculty musicians who've inspired them throughout this week. And so speaking of which, let's revisit the atmospheric opening minutes of Aaron Copland's Quiet City from last night's 7th and final faculty concert. Now, one of the remarkable things about this festival is that the musicians we've been watching all week don't simply arrive, perform, and leave again. Every rehearsal, every coaching session, every conversation has contributed to what we'll hear tonight. And this program with the Festival Symphony Orchestra reflects that diversity and culmination of efforts wonderfully. Three works on the program. We begin with Anthropolis by the celebrated Mexican composer Gabriela Ortiz. And she's one of the most exciting orchestral voices of our time. Inspired by the energy, color, and dance traditions of Mexico City, this work has rapidly become one of the most performed orchestral pieces of the last decade, and tonight receives its South African premiere. Our soloist, faculty cellist David Cohen, then takes center stage for one of the 20th century's great concertos, the Cello Concerto by Alfred Schnittke. And after the interval, we conclude with Mahler's monumental First Symphony, The Titan, a work that seems very appropriate for an orchestra making its festival debut. And so tonight, this year's Festival Symphony Orchestra will be under the direction of Mike Repper, a student of Marin Alsop, and at the age of only 35, he already has a Grammy to his name. And so before we continue, let's revisit another memorable faculty performance from last night. Here's the opening of Paganini's Sonata for Grand Viola with soloist Mikhail Zemtsov under the direction of David Cohen. What a privilege it's been to witness musicians of such caliber throughout the week. And so a reminder that this is the third last day of the 2026 Sicmf, but the festival has given no indication of slowing down. Student ensemble concerts have continued, final orchestral rehearsals have occupied almost every available space in this building, and festival director Peter Martens has just wrapped up a conversation over in the Janusz Hall with Micklin Leithang. And so there's a tangible sense of excitement around the end of this evening. For many of these young musicians, this will be one of the largest and most significant performances of their early lives. If you know someone playing tonight, a family member, a student, or a close friend, do let us know in the chat. Now, one of the highlights of yesterday evening's final faculty concert was the festival's informal prize-giving ceremony, a long-standing Sicmf tradition that celebrates some of the quirkiest achievements of faculty and students alike. And that quirkiness extended to some of the music on offer. Here is the opening of the Fantasia for alto saxophone and wind orchestra, with Liam Burden as soloist, conducted by Karen Hendrickson, who incidentally celebrated her birthday yesterday. This must be one of the most exhilarating views of the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. So many young musicians on the stage. They must spend hours calculating exactly how many musicians, how many stands, how many seats they can fit on the stage. Isn't it a thrilling sight? This is this year's Festival Symphony Orchestra, and it's the culmination of a week of rehearsals in between all the other coaching, all the other master classes. And for tonight's concert, they've prepared 3 works for you, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. Anthropolis by Gabriela Ortiz, a South African premiere, and then the Schnittke Cello Concerto that unfolds in 4 movements, and that's with David Cohen as soloist, also a South African premiere. And then after the interval, Mahler's first symphony, known as the Titan, and that also unfolds in four movements. As you know, Mahler being one of the great symphonists of the late 19th, early 20th century. And so to have a work of his on the program is a really big deal. And what a fantastic experience for these young musicians to be exposed to that kind of repertoire at this stage of their careers. Mike Repper needs no introduction. He's been with us before, Grammy Award winning, studied with Marin Alsop. Mike Repper will be leading the Festival Symphony Orchestra this evening. And so, as I mentioned, this is the South African premiere then of this first work, Anthropolis, by the Mexican composer Gabriela Ortiz. She was born in 1964, and her eclectic musical style blends a wide variety of genres, including rock, Afro-Cuban music, and Mexican folk music. Her parents were well-known Mexican folk musicians. Now, this work that we will hear tonight was commissioned in 2017 for a performance at Carnegie Hall in New York City, celebrating the 80th birthday of Philip Glass, whom you may remember, his Four Seasons, the American Four Seasons, opened this year's festival. And this is the key bit to keep in mind as you listen to this work. This piece is a tribute to the nightlife of Mexico City, with the title being a play on antro, Mexican slang for a nightclub or bar, and metropolis, hence Anthropolis, the title of this work. So it reminds one of Matthijs van Dijk's Dance that we heard some years ago on this stage, also a very cool mingling of contemporary and classical styles. All our young musicians squeezing in a moment or two extra practice before we get going with the piece and the tuning. A very full orchestra on the stage, harp, piano, a large percussion department, and a full hall as well. So gratifying to see all the support from other students, perhaps those who are playing in the festival concert orchestra, from parents, from the public, from faculty artists, all here to support the orchestra. The concertmaster arrives. I'll have to find out his name and get back to you, who he is. Ben Burton is his name. It was very quick. I phoned a friend here in the sound booth. Orchestra's tuning. And thank you for joining us tonight. It's good to see such a healthy following of this live stream, and tonight in particular, these orchestral showpieces. So please do let us know where you're listening from and who you're supporting and their name and what they are playing. And give us some description of what they look like or their instruments so we can try and figure out who they are. Should have brought my opera glasses tonight, but you're lucky. You're at in the comfort of perhaps your home with this masterful crew we have here, who bringing all the detail, all the emotion, all the excitement, top quality. Maestro Mike Repper comes to the stage. Barely a chance for him to squeeze in there, greeting the concertmaster, introducing the ensemble, taking a quick bow, acknowledging the audience, and starting off with Anthropolis by Gabriela Ortiz. Remember, Mexican nightlife. That's what you want to keep in mind for the South African premiere. Yes, indeed. Special mention to Chris Burgess there on timps. Very impressive virtuosic solo bits. And indeed, the percussion department, all the brass. Maestro is signaling out now the horns. And indeed, the entire ensemble. You'd be forgiven for thinking we were briefly parachuted into Mexico City there. Anthropolis by Gabriela Ortiz, receiving its South African premiere at the 2026 Sicmf. And if you really enjoyed that, you'll be able to hear it again on Sunday afternoon when this orchestra takes to the stage, either on our live stream or perhaps it's worth making the trip into Stellenbosch to hear Touch of Mexico. But very, very nicely done. Impressive precision. Concertmaster Ben Burton running a tight ship there. Ethan Lawson as principal cello, I see. And a few faculty artists dotted in between. Elizabeth Retief has returned to the piano. We also have Josh Hugh playing Celesta. Well, not the real thing, sadly, but a digital counterpart. So I think this is quite exciting. We heard many years ago, I suspect it may even have been in 2019, just before the pandemic, the viola concerto by Schnittke on this stage. And now we get to hear his cello concerto in what is apparently the South African premiere. How exciting is that? So again, the first time this work is being performed. And if it's the South African premiere, one might be cheeky enough to suspect it is in fact the continental premiere. So the Russian composer Alfred Schnittke, he lived from 1934 to 1998. And he is typical of the artistic cultural trend of postmodernism. In the last few decades of the 20th century, Barry Ross writes in his program notes here, it would be fair to say that postmodernism competed with minimalism for first place in the consciousness of the art music public. Throughout most of his career, Schnittke deliberately brought disparate and contrasting musical styles into collision, perhaps not unlike the work we've just heard, creating juxtapositions that were both stylistic and historical. But personal tragedy was to intervene after suffering a stroke in 1985, followed by a coma. Schnittke largely abandoned this extroverted style. The rest of his life was to be spent in a state of continual and deteriorating ill health, and this was viscerally represented in his music. And that includes this first cello concerto of his, written from 1985 to 1986, just before I was born. It's an example of the style that saw him retreating into a bleak, deeply introspective sonic landscape. Now, that doesn't mean the music is sad or depressing, but rather think of that in context, how his personal life and challenges, he must have thought perhaps that the music was a way of dealing with and expressing some of those difficult feelings or situations. So let's listen to the soundscape that this orchestra creates, and David Cohen, our cellist, how he is going to bring the solo voice of that most magnificent instrument. We've had such wonderful cellists here as part of this festival. We think of Maya Bogdanovic, for example. She's returned back to Amsterdam with Daniel Rowland. They may even be watching this live stream now. And as we heard in the Glier Octet the other night, for example, the cello really holding a privileged position as a voice of authority, if you like, amongst the string instruments. And so there's going to be wonderful interplay between the orchestra and the cello in this work that I don't know. I will be hearing for the first time with you. Mike Repper, of course, leading the orchestra. 4 movements, passante into moderato, and then a slow second movement, largo, it's marked. A fast third movement, allegro vivace, and then unusually a slow fourth and final movement, largo again. And here's David Cohen, cello. We saw him briefly as conductor last night in the seventh and final faculty concert, but now he's back in home territory, if you like, with his instrument. Receiving much appreciation from his ensemble and those in the hall. Mike Rapper to the podium. Enjoy now this South African premiere of Schnitger's Cello Concerto. intensely cathartic work. Alfred Schnittke's Cello Concerto #1, David Cohen, faculty cellist here at the Sicmf, led by Mike Repper. Festival Symphony Orchestra playing that incredible piece. I was in the hall for most of it, and there were times I was completely consumed, completely overwhelmed. Moments of exquisite beauty and quiet, and others of just overwhelming noise. Yes, the cello, the instrument. Of course, all praise to the master who played it, but it's really just a few pieces of wood and some strings, and wow, what a sound. And what a work. Bleak, desolate, and yeah, mountains and valleys of emotion. Mike congratulating David Cohen and the entire Festival Symphony Orchestra here on the 8th day of the 2026 Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival, our concertmaster this evening. Gosh. A concerto of symphonic proportions, and to think we still have a Mahler symphony in the second half. I will need a glass of wine. Fantastic. Enormous credit to, of course, the soloist and conductor, but all the students, all the instrumentalists, all the performers. Gosh, there's Henny on stage, bringing us back to earth in some ways, removing that sacred score from the podium, just to replace it with Gustav Mahler's First Symphony very, very soon. Well, time to return to the real world, at least for a little bit. In my interval interview today will be Emmanuel Ivanov, our faculty pianist, who's also been with us here at the Sicmf before. He'll be playing Mendelssohn's Double Piano Concerto together with Micklin on Sunday with this orchestra. So, of course, we're going to reflect on what we've just heard and look ahead to that. But while we get wired up, I just want to share with you a clip from last night's faculty concert, if you like, to cleanse our palates after that. These are the opening minutes of the Concertino by Ante Gurjin, the Croatian composer. This incredible work that again bridged 100 different styles. Mike Repper again conducting with a virtuosic performance by Yao Guangchai. And as he says here, a symphony in jazz clothing. welcome back to the foyer of the Enler Hall. We're still coming down to earth after that celestial ending to the Schnittke Cello Concerto played by David Cohen and the FSO under Mike Repper. Now, if you've been watching this live stream throughout the week, you'll know that these young musicians are developing day by day in rehearsals and sectional coaching. And tonight we've seen the result, an orchestra performing with confidence, imagination, and commitment. And one of our returning faculty who's been so instrumental, so to speak, in coaching these young musicians, also one of the most exciting young pianists in the world today, and that's Emmanuel Ivanov. Emmanuel, welcome back.
Pleasure to be here again.
And thanks for being game. We both felt that a glass of wine. Cheers.
As I was saying,
Whoopsie.
okay, fine. I would just hold it like this. As I was saying before, when we chatted, I love it that wine is an integral part of whatever happens here. So,
and it's come up in one of the chats before that it's a great kind of facilitator of sometimes risk-taking communication that is needed in music.
Yeah, absolutely.
This
is one of the most important things in music making. If you play it safe, it's not gonna work.
And do you think there was some risk-taking on stage this evening? I mean, how do you feel having worked perhaps with some of those students?
To just talk first about this evening, I'm still quite shaken by what we just heard before the interval. Schnittke's Cello Concerto is one of my favorites in the cello concerto repertoire, maybe my favorite. It's a piece of genius. I always wanted to hear it live. This is my first time hearing it live, and David Cohen is an extraordinary musician, extraordinary artist, and what we heard just now was I have no words, really. And these kids as well. I mean, to play this music,
ambitious, don't you think?
Yes, and to absorb it like this, it's really hats off.
I'm very intrigued by your admiration for this concerto, because as you know, this was a South African premiere.
Yes.
We usually hear the Saint-Saëns, the Shostakovich, the Elgar on our stages
I didn't realize this concerto wasn't played before in South Africa. Right. This is very interesting.
How did you come to it? I guess Schnittke is, shall we say, closer to your world and
geographically,
experience
ethnically,
than
maybe.
Ours. Yeah.
No. Well, I'm very interested in 20th century music, especially the second part of the 20th century. And Schnittke is a great inspiration for me overall, and as a composer, as a musician. His music expresses so much and in such a direct and raw way. It really hits you.
It does.
And I really, well, maybe enjoy is not the proper word, but this is really my type of experience.
I mean, such an emotional journey. I mean, they're absolutely overwhelming climaxes, and then absolute devastation and bleakness at moments as well. It's this full journey.
Well, the last part of this concerto was written after he barely survived a stroke. He was in a coma a couple of times, and then he wrote the last movement after this. So it's really, it's difficult to describe in words, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's the mark. I mean, would you agree of much great music is this a pouring of personal experience and emotion into music? I mean, absolute music is one thing, but and perhaps this is still but maybe there is, if you like, some programmatic aspect or elements to it.
Well, even if we don't consider the programmatic aspect, for me, all great music is music of extremes and music which breaks all sorts of boundaries with absolute confidence.
Right, and that's coming back to almost the very first comment you made tonight about risk-taking, taking adventures, being authentic, not playing the kind of the easy or the safe middle ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, this becomes harder and harder nowadays, because risk-taking involves accepting that perfection is an illusion, an impossibility.
Yes.
But somehow nowadays we're conditioned, especially with recording technology, with competitions, with young people especially, we're conditioned to strive for perfection and to always be obsessed by this idea, which is impossible.
Yes.
And if one lets go and really takes risks in performance, this really results in genuine and honest music making. At least that's my credo.
And do you think that is something that this festival helps to embody and encourage as well. I mean, some of the performances we've seen on this stage that you've been part of on this stage,
Yes.
I mean, how those have come together in absolute shoestring rehearsal time.
Yeah, this is really a miracle.
Yeah.
It's the miracle of this festival, and
Right.
I have no explanation how this works, but it somehow does.
It's thrilling. I mean, for us as the audience as
Yeah.
well to accept and understand that this is going on.
For us as well.
Yes. Well, exactly. But it's a fine balance, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
I mean, are there ever times you feel nervous going out on stage, or sort of unready or unprepared?
I'm nervous all the time.
All the time,
No, I mean, I believe in the healthy dose of nervousness.
Of course, and the adrenaline.
Which, if you know how to control it, or almost control
It can
it,
play into your favor.
Absolutely, absolutely.
On a very personal note, have there ever been performances where you've either been completely, utterly terrified beforehand, or they didn't go according to plan?
Oh, nothing goes according to plan. I mean, it takes a few years to sort of realize that on the concert evening, things will happen that you never imagined would happen.
But it's 99% still
Yeah.
the plan or the way it's sort of meant to go, or following the score.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's always so
This is part of the game.
this is part of the game. Right, so we're going to hear you and Micklin playing with this orchestra on Sunday. Something completely different, Mendelssohn. Is that a work, his double concerto, that you've played before?
No, in fact, it's the first time for me.
okay.
And in fact, this year's Chamberfest gave me 3 works to play, which are all new to me. So
Right.
this year is full of personal premieres.
Okay, so remind us of those other works then.
Yeah, I performed Bartok's Sonata for
Right,
two pianos and percussion.
yes, very good.
Then Olli Mustonen's Sextet.
The sextet, right.
For piano
Very
and
good.
winds.
Yes.
Which was a very interesting piece for me because I've never played with a group of winds before.
Yeah.
This was the first experience for me, and I have to say I enjoyed it very much. I'm very interested in this group of instruments in terms of timbres and stuff. I've written some pieces for some of them, especially
is that
the clarinet.
so? Okay.
But it was a great experience. And now the Mendelssohn Double Concerto,
Yeah.
which is really an extraordinary piece of music, which he wrote when he was 14.
Incredible.
I
I mean,
mean-
one thinks of the octet and the overture to Midsummer Night's Dream when he was sort of, what, 17? Yes, cheers if we may to
Yes.
personal premieres and...
Absolutely. Yeah. And this Mendelssohn Double Concerto is extra special for me because as my first partnership with Micklin,
Mhm.
my first time meeting him here, and I have to say this guy is incredible. This is such a talent, such a genuine musician, full of energy, and
Indefatigable is
Yes.
the word.
yes,
Tireless.
and working with such people, it's always this is the greatest type of joy we have as musicians.
So has it been... It was easy then to establish kind of a common way of expressing this concerto.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Immediately.
Yeah.
I love it when I meet people with whom everything clicks exactly.
Did you have
the
any
first
correspondence with them before arriving here at the festival? Or
Very, very minimal regarding
minimal.
additions of the piece and
Okay.
stuff like this, but nothing like a pre-rehearsal plan
Yeah.
or something. No.
And out of interest, from purely a practical perspective, then how many hours have the two of you spent together? And then how many hours have you spent with this orchestra?
No, we did a couple of short rehearsals already, just the two of us, and we're about to rehearse with the orchestra tomorrow.
Okay, right. Yeah, I
Yes.
suppose they had to focus on the...
Yes, because they had
The
quite a
cello
lot to.
concerto
Yes.
And of course the Mahler that they will
Ours-
then play again on.
Yes, ours is
Sunday.
much lighter.
Yes. So perhaps thinking of our guests and our audience who are tuning in, what should they listen out for on Sunday in the double concerto?
Right. Well, this is a piece which is mainly focused on the two instruments. Most of it is a duel between the two instruments.
Gosh,
Um,
like a duel as in sort of a competition.
no,
almost.
a duo.
Oh, a duo, right.
Yes. No, I don't
Just
think it's a duel.
Okay.
Or at least maybe at some parts it is.
Yeah.
But we'll find this out on Sunday.
Okay.
The orchestra supports us. colors a little bit, but it's not such an interplay. The
Right.
interplay is mostly between the two solo instruments.
If you didn't know who the composer was, perhaps for those who fairly well versed in orchestral and chamber music, would one be able to tell quite quickly that this is Mendelssohn, albeit a young Mendelssohn?
Even if it's a very early piece by Mendelssohn, it still has the hallmarks of his style. I mean, of course, there's a lot from even from Mozart, from Beethoven, from Hummel.
Yes.
There are influences from those composers. But I always think of young Mendelssohn as Mozart on steroids.
Yes.
Because he was an amazing piano player already at the age of 10 or whatever.
And he grew up in this incredible environment, the
Yes.
support of parents and the people who would come into the home.
Yes.
And
Yeah, but which means that the piano part is incredibly virtuosic
Okay.
and very idiomatic,
yeah,
very enjoyable to play, but quite hard.
right.
And also, he was a violinist, so the violin part
Yes.
kind of shares the same traits.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, very much looking
I'm
forward to.
also looking forward to this. This is really something I've been waiting for with great curiosity.
I just want to touch briefly on, you mentioned you're composing, and forgive me, maybe I didn't do my homework enough, but tell us about that. And
Well,
do we get to hear your pieces? May we find them online?
Well, I try to write more things now, to do it more often. Depends, when I have more concerts, it's more difficult. I can't.
Do you feel this urge to set down, create, externalize
It's
music?
not a permanent thing.
Hmm.
No, sometimes I have periods where I don't write anything.
Mhm.
But I think that's part of the natural process. Sometimes there's just bursts of inspiration
Yes,
and
indeed.
things sort of happen. But I
Yes.
try to devote more time to it recently.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, like they say, the muse, when she visits, she needs to find you working. It's not helpful
Yes,
if you're just sort of
absolutely.
sitting there drinking wine. Oh, I should compose. I should
Is this
compose.
muse?
So, yes, indeed. Cheers. And then just one last thing I want to pick up on. You mentioned playing in the Mustanin sextet with
Yes.
the winds. It was an adjustment in some ways, having to play with the winds, or sort of a surprise. Are you able to just unpack that a little bit more? Is playing with winds quite different from
Playing
strings?
with wind, yes, it is, because the strings, even though they're separate, different instruments, they still have quite
They're
similar
part of the same
timbres,
family,
and they
right.
blend in a very different way.
Gosh, but the flute and the clarinet, the oboe, bassoon,
Oh, yes.
so distinct from one another.
Yes, absolutely, and that's very interesting because they have different. It's like different characters
Yes.
in a play or something, with very different opinions, but somehow it all manages to be together at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one closing note before we head back inside for the Mahler. When you look back on this festival, what is going to stand out for you? What
So
is?
this is my third festival. I think I already feel completely at home. Less and less of my usual introvert tendencies are exhibited.
Can't imagine that.
And I really, this is like family to me.
Yeah.
And I really, this festival is always one of my highlights of the year. So I'm very grateful to be here. Very grateful to Nina and to Peter for their continuing support and for trusting me with taking part in this festival.
Well, it's
And
an
I'm
enormous-
I'm honored and humbled to be here.
Well,
really.
such a privilege to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to return to the Endler Hall for this magnificent first symphony by Mahler, a fitting culmination of everything these students have been working towards over the past week. But first, one final highlight from last night, we have to revisit faculty cellist Boris Andrianov's rocking out this piece that straddled both the classical and contemporary musical worlds. Cheers. such a nice chat there with Emmanuel. I hope you enjoyed it too, and especially those insightful tidbits, bits of his personal philosophy, his personal musical journey that he shared with us. It always strikes me. I mean, he's very, very young as well. Such eloquence and understanding at that young age. For the rest of us, we can only hope to get there one day. It's quite strange to be back in the Endler for the second half of this 8th concert with the festival Symphony Orchestra tonight on the stage. It feels like we've had a full symphony concert already, but that was just the overture and the concerto, and now for the main course, if you like. Symphony number 1 by Gustav Mahler. And as Barry Ross writes in his program notes, which appear in the festival program, symphonies don't come more monumental than those of Gustav Mahler. He lived from 1860 to 1911. And then there's this famous quote expressing his views on symphonic writing to Sibelius, the Finnish composer. Mahler said that the symphony must be like the world, it must embrace everything. And he took the symphonic genre so seriously that apart from the writing of lieder or art songs, it was his principal compositional activity. And of course, he would also become a pioneer in blending lieder and symphonies. Vocalists take an important role in many of his later symphonies. His day job was as a conductor, and then over the summer, he would retire to the countryside to write music. So he wrote many symphonies, 10 symphonies. This is his symphony number 1 in D major, nicknamed the Titan. It was written between 1887 and 1888. And Mahler's views on the expansiveness of symphonic music were evident from the beginning. He originally planned for this work to have 5 movements. Remember, symphonies usually have 4 movements. And it was meant to have the character of a tone poem, the subject being the Titans of Greek mythology, hence the context. The lights in the end left dimmed. And then there was a discarded movement that was included in later performances of the symphony before Mahler eventually dispensed with it. But perhaps the most famous inclusion of melodies in this symphony is a minor key version of Frère Jacques in the 3rd movement Funeral March, highlighting another common feature of Mahler's music, a bittersweet connection between childhood and death. So really continuing the gravitas of musical material that we have explored in the concerto this evening, we now pair that with this 1st symphony by Mahler. Mahler giving such detailed directions. I suppose I should have done my homework and translated these subtitles. My German is not very good, so I'm not going to try and pronounce or even attempt to translate the German for you, but they will appear on your screen as we go along. Otherwise, you're welcome to look them up for yourself. Perhaps you'd be interested to read a bit more about this symphony as it proceeds. Mike Repper, the conductor, coming on stage, greeting Ben Burton, our concertmaster this evening, to lead the festival Symphony Orchestra here live from the Endler Hall, the 2026 Sicmf, the 1st symphony by Gustav Mahler. With that symphonic statement, Mahler's place in the history books was assured. And we all know what happened after that. Another 8 magnificent symphonies, an incomplete 10th. The first symphony, The Titan, by Gustav Mahler, performed there by the Festival Symphony Orchestra, led by Mike Repper, concertmaster Ben Burton, coming to you live on the 8th day from the Endler Hall in Stellenbosch of the 21st Sicmf. And a well-deserved standing ovation for our orchestra. Every single player, every single student, not just students. Take a look at the back row of the violins. Miklin Laipang, we see you. Thanks for sitting in for one of the students at very short notice. Yes, the winds deserving special mention from Maestro Rapper. Hey. Yes, please. All the winds on their feet. Cheers from the audience. Horns, yes. It was really nice to see you standing in those final moments. Bravo. Trumpets. Trombones. Yes, percussion. All you stick bearers. And our string principals. Ricardo, our harpist. The entire Festival Symphony Orchestra. The flagship ensemble of this year's Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. Special congratulations to all those on Maestro Rapper's left-hand side, so to speak. Left-hand assistants, left-hand people. Bravo, everyone. To perform such a monumental work from the musical literature like that, with such limited time together, but very hard and focused work with someone of Maestro Rapper's caliber, quite incredible. And you know what the best bit is? You actually get to hear it all over again on Sunday. Nice how Maestro Rapper's delivering the personal thanks and congratulations to all of his players. Right, well, time to say goodnight. What a remarkable evening, heavenly, as someone who just walked past commented. Over the past 7 nights, we've celebrated the artistry of the faculty musicians who give so generously of themselves and their experience here at this festival. And tonight, we've witnessed something equally inspiring. The next generation stepping onto the stage with confidence, ambition, and musical commitment. For many members of this orchestra, tonight will become one of those performances they remember for the rest of their lives. And thanks to these live streams, they'll be able to return to it and share it with family, friends, future students for many years to come. Tomorrow evening, this festival continues with our penultimate live streamed performance, the festival Concert Orchestra under Karen Hendrickson, featuring music by Tchaikovsky, his Swan Lake Suite No. 1, the first violin concerto by Max Bruch with Siwoo Kim, soloist, Bizet's colorful Carmen Suite. So thank you from wherever in the country or the world you've been joining us this evening, whether you've watched every concert with us or discovered the Sicmf only tonight. We're delighted you've been able to be part of this remarkable journey with us. And so until tomorrow evening, from everyone here at the Endler, this is John Woodland wishing you a very good night. We'll see you tomorrow for another evening of chamber music magic.